Hello, 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 everyone. We are live, and I'm very happy that like we are doing this Q&A with Alex, the maker of the Window Boy, who does like to have a submarine. Um, Alex, you're joining from Argentina.
Uruguay. I am currently in Uruguay.
Oh,
Only my head is in India right now.
yes. So, uh, welcome to Art of Asia, everyone. We are doing this Q&A, and if you are listening from home or even inside the theater, I hope you will enjoy it. So, Alex, um, this is the Kolkata premiere of the film, but you are here in India, I think a month before, to present your film in person, and I think there was like it was a physical film festival as well with the social distancing norms as ours do.
Sorry. Can you speak a little bit louder? Sorry. And
Hello, hello,
yeah, much
hello.
better. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So, yeah, so my question is that like I will begin from the very last scene, when to be very precise, that everything got kind of flooded.
Uh-huh.
And so, what was your inspiration in this film? Like, was it designed before while writing in pre-production, or
If it
like
was decided,
no, no, no. No, no. I'm saying like it was it, like very organic to in your pre-production and scripting. That was this the scene which you thought before writing the film screenplay that this is how I am gonna end this film, or it was organically came during the screenplay writing
mm,
step by step that this was the last scene which you have written on the last.
first of all, let me say I am very, very happy to be here. Like this kind of live Q&A is the first time in the whole year having a real Q&A, even online with the public, which I love a lot. So first of all, I would like to say that. Regarding the question, no, the idea was always very clear. Not exactly that this was going to happen, but yes, that if it was true that the ship could connect different places of the world on the other side of the world, actually there should be something that join that, right? Like something that of the regarding the map or the geography, the structure of the film, of the machine, of the connections that should be like very powerful and conceptual in a way in the end. So in the end, it should make sense that I mean these faraway places should be really connected. So I always understood that this way was the one that would make those different places connect. A little bit like the butterfly effect, right? Like a broken shed in Philippines can make a flooding in Uruguay or in a ship or actually in the entire world. So that idea was always an idea. Of course, the precise decisions, the final images were like the consequence of a lot of stuff, which was part in the script, part in the shooting, part in the post production. We decided to include some shots of him running down the stairs, which were not included in the shooting as a flooding scene. But afterwards, the water is always VFX post production, fake water. It's not real water. We have some real water in the white shot, but it was like a sad rain. So we decided to put a good flooding on VFX. So I could take some shots from other scenes and put them to work in that scene and of the flooding. So it was a mix in that sense. And yes, and the last scene, the very last shot underwater, we didn't shoot it because we have no budget for that. But afterwards, I decided to do it anyway because I need it so much. So we managed to do it in a very artisanal way. And for me, it's the most important shot of the film, of course.
And So this is your first film, Alex, and may I know that how many years it took you to write this film or to make it in general? Like, what was the process?
The first images, the first ideas of the film came out 10 years ago, 11 years ago right now, 2010, when I was studying cinema in the school in Argentina, and we were asked to write a script. So I said to myself, I can write whatever I want. And then I started writing this monster, and little by little, it started getting bigger and stranger and so on. And so it took a lot of time because it was my first film, my first feature film, as a scriptwriter, as a director, as a producer. So I was learning how to do all that in the moment, and that took a lot of time. Yes,
It's a long time, I must say that like it has taken,
I know
and
that. I know.
like even though it's your first film, I like to tell that like this is one of my most favorite films from this year,
Thank you. Thank you a lot. Thank you a
and
lot. Very glad to hear that.
like mm, I felt that it never felt it's the first film. It was always felt like it is made by someone very experienced and like who was meticulously know what need to be shown in every film. So I'm coming
I
to
am
the editing part of
experienced.
it.
I am experienced in making this film. Just to have, because it was so many time, so much time, 10 years. So finally, you get experienced in somehow.
Yeah, so like I'm coming to this point that like when you are editing this film, it was like so does the film from what you have written on the script and shot worldwide, I think like you have shot in Philippines, uh, and like in Latin America, I think in Uruguay, and so like when you started editing the film, um, was it the same thing which you have planned happened on the editing table, or you thought that okay, we have something we can evolve the film from now, and this is a better film than what we have written? What was what happened?
I should, I should say that I never had an image of the film in a way. I mean, I was always questions, right? Each stage was questions to be answered in the next step. So when I was writing the script, it was like an impulse. I mean, it was like a will, a wish list, the script in a way, but of something about I didn't fully understood. So when I started the shooting in Philippines, which was the first stage, and I saw the first image in the monitor, I say, okay, this is the film. It looks like this. I like it. But I was surprised also. And then, so for me, it was very important that in the Philippines, which was the first stage, I could start editing because I had no clue about what film I was going to shoot. So we had a editor on set, a Filipino editor on set. So at the end of the day, each day I watch the images with her and continue thinking about the film. So 4 years ago, we started editing the film in the moment of the shooting, and then we had the bad and good fortune that we shot by stages. That the second stage was 1 year afterwards in Uruguay, no, in the ship, and then it was like very in a long time, like we had 3 or 4 shooting stages. So in all that time, and also afterwards, after finishing the shooting, I always edit. I always edited. So when I find that something was not going good, going well in the edition of Philippines, I put some notes, black squares with notes, and I try to figure out how I could resolve that or improve that in the next shooting. So we could have a 1 day of Filipino shooting in Uruguay with very specific shots to include in the. So it was little by little, like I had the good luck of doing that because I could understood better, the film in the in the meantime. If not, it would have been a terrible film. I mean, I am very lucky to have that time to rethink the film and reshoot if necessary and so on.
Wow, wow, that's a great experience that you have shared. Like that, uh, I particularly think that with your control over this film, I am sure that it never would have been a disaster, and it would
Sorry?
if this car was different also, but then it would have been beautiful.
Very good.
So
Sorry, the mic closer.
okay, we can't hear.
Sorry, it's very, very, very
Yeah,
loud.
yeah.
The speed here also.
Yes, so I have a question from the audience. We are not able to take the audience question directly because, if we are going inside the theater, then there is a echo coming in because sound is reverber.
Mm.
So yeah, so I have a question that your film expands on the notion of interconnectedness of cosmos, while narrative talks about the disruption of sapio-temporal continuity. On the other side, the cruise can also be compared with the impact of consumerism, which the villagers finally break. Can you comment on how you brought this factor together?
Yes, regarding the connections, the space and time connections, I don't feel personally that it's about a time disruption. For me, it's like the regular line time, like normal time. I heard a lot of times that people feel that it's also like a time connection, and that's okay for me. But I never thought about that in that way. But that's okay. So yes, on one hand we have, yeah, that's true. This hyperconnection, and the other hand we have these disruptions and these like fragmented um, scenes or places and on the other hand we have yes, the consumerist on the ship, but I don't feel like I am doing a comment about capitalism in a way. I mean, I would not know which one would be the comment. I feel that, I mean, I am not saying that there's no comment of right, but what I feel is that I am not talking about but working with. The difference is like they are materials, and I something in myself chooses that materials. I understand that, and of course it makes sense. But for me, it's not so much about talking about something, but working with. So, like if it was plasticine, how you say, if it was some like texture, and like it's okay the broadcast. I put together these textures and something appears, and I work in that way, like in a plastical way. I am more interested in that, and I strongly believe that in this art craft, something about the meaning, of course, appears, right? For instance, but in a very concrete and practical way. For instance, when I was shooting on the ship, I was shooting on the place and the passengers, and I was so angry and so upset and so annoying for me the idea of the passengers on the shot, on the image. So I decided something in me decided to take the passengers out of the shot of the frame and frame the empty place and frame the window with the landscape, with a beautiful landscape, and this relation and this contrast between the this Guantanamo and Disneyland place, which is the ship, and in contrast with the landscape, and then some worker appears, and there are some plastical decisions that are very connected and with some political decisions maybe, but for me the strong impulse was like plastical. Maybe it's impossible to separate right, the aesthetic and the ethic. I cannot hear you.
I have another question from the audience that kindly comment on your process of composition where you have framed character within lines inside the house or inside the cruise, a language you have used throughout the film.
Yes. I for me framing is the most important. Is my way of approaching the film. So I always like to scout the location and take pictures, and which I like, including the windows, the frame inside the frame, the off screen that appears actively in the location, and and with all that the how to say the depth of proof, and with all that I go to my house and start imagining what's happening in that scenario, right, in that theater, let's say. So I always privilege this the possibility of getting inside and outside the frame and the choreography. So that's my approach. And when I go to shoot, I am always looking for that and trying to understand what happens if how can I get surprised? How can I use the complete frame in this choreography? For instance, here in my house, this the mirror. If you, I mean, for sure, I would like to make something with that door on the front, on the back, right? And the light that appears in that wall, and to reorganize the possibilities of intention of intensity inside the frame and outside the frame. And I work like that. And also in the editing room in post production, when I am editing the film, I always, as there are still shots, I work like each part, each fragment of the shot in separately, so I can choose the best acting of a character in different takes and put them there, working in connection with other part of other shot, and I start like making this puzzle, this choreography in post production. So very a lot of times, some bad acting or error of the character of the actor, I take it and it's the good one because I discover new relationships on the frame. So I am always looking for these new relationships and how I get surprised with these interruptions, and forcing the frame, the shots in editing to work and to communicate different stuff. I mean, in a different way that it was thought in the shooting and also in the script. So I always get interested in and surprised by all that.
Okay. And like we also have another audience question. Like before that, but I like to ask you like one question that is, mm, who is the boy? Like who is that boy for you? Who is your protagonist? And why you have chosen that character, which is which is using the teleportation technique, and through that you are not only making an elevated genre film but an art house too. So who is that boy? Like who is
Who
this
is in
person?
which sense?
Like for you, like this for me, I have I like when I have watched the film, it was I can connect with him like personally. For me, I can say that uh, I can relate to that person because like in this in this world, everyone of us have a different space, different circles, and we need to maybe act differently, and like differently we are being connected. While in some position we feel closer to few people, and in some position we feel that they are like they are kind of a most different person than us. So in that way, I am asking that for you, as you have created the character, who is the boy for you? Like when you wrote the character, is there any inspiration, or is it just you that, or some version of you?
One can say that all the characters share something with us, right? And also they don't. What I can say about William the Boy is that I feel closer to him in the way that he maybe happily I have changed and I am a different person than 10 years ago. But something about his shyness, something about his feeling of not belonging, of watching but not being involved in the scene, something about the being aside from the things happening, something about that and the fear and the terrible fear of belonging, right? When he starts belonging in a place, he needs to get away. Happily, I am not that person anymore, but maybe I used to be more than that. But also, I can also say that there's something about the glance, something about he's a watcher. He's a how you say he's somebody who watches, right? Who looks, and the cinema has a lot to do with that. So I think that we share with him the position of being the one who looks from outside, from the shadows. And I like that. It's, in a way, it's not a detective, but something around that, somebody who looks and wonders and wants to discover and wants to and follows this desire without understanding completely what that space, what is going to do there. If it's a good or bad decision, he follows that desire, even if it ends in the catastrophe of the flooding. And even in the flooding, even underwater, he continues looking, he continues like wandering around the water. You can say that if he could have a submarine, it would be easier for him to continue wandering underwater. You know, that feeling of going behind the desire and to the unknown, right? Trying to go to the unknown. In that way, I can say I share something with Window Boy.
Okay, so another audience question, like I think it's a kind of a demanded one. There is young filmmakers in the audience, and they like
Hello.
to know that
All
they like
them.
to know from you that uh, the journey of this film, I think, got started internationally after the Hubert Ball Funds. So, how it changed you, your film's journey, and you, and what was the process in terms of reaching audience, especially during this lockdown, worldwide lockdown, and when your film
So
got
first,
released.
the money question was what? What was exactly the money question about the funds? No,
Fun, like how Hubert Ball Funds. Yeah, so
it was
like
the first.
how after the funds, yeah, after the funds, your international co-production things uh, got started, rolled out. So what was that process?
Yeah, long process. I in the very beginning of the project of the development when I was writing it, I had my first short film, which was premiered in Cannes in the Critics Week in 2011. So that was a very important event. So that like triggered something about okay, let's look to this project. So it started like being selected in places, in development places in Latin America, and also we won in 2012 the development fund of Uberbad, which was from Uberbad, which was so important to me. I quit my job editing TV and start like working 100% for the project, and realized that it may be a film there and that somebody would be interested in that film. So that was very important. And then we got to San Sebastian co-production forum and we started like all that journey in the festival circuits, which was the way the film had. But looking towards that moment now, I should say that I discovered myself working too much for those applications and those labs and those markets. And it was not so much a good idea because I lost a lot of time, a lot of years actually working for them without having a script. I did everything bad. I didn't have a script, but I went to the markets, to several markets. I didn't know, I have nothing to show, but an idea, but an illusion, but like a passion, but not a film. So it was tricky. Now I would do it completely different, but in that moment it was the way the film had to develop itself. So I went to several labs and markets and so on. For me, the important stuff is that I will never say that those labs and markets and whatever change the film or like colonize the film. I don't feel at all that I was very so passionate and so stubborn, probably stubborn with the idea of shooting this film that I give a shit. I mean, I don't. I think that one should held his own illusion and go behind that as window boy. And if you are like passionate and stubborn and so on, and you believe in the project or whatever, things will start happening. I mean, because the other people feel that compromise and that passion and so on, and it starts making something bigger and bigger. So actually, it was very tricky to find the production funds. It was very fun to go to festivals with the project, but then the money didn't appear at all. So it was a problem. We spent like 3 or 4 years looking for production funds, and when we did it, it was not enough. I could not have my director's fee because we have no money to pay. And in the middle, the Latin American money start devaluating, so it was less money and less money. So it was very complicated. But yes, we are also lucky, and we could do it. And we had these funds from Urvals, the production funds also, including the Dutch co-producer Frank Hoop. We had the money from Uruguay, which was the last money from the main country, just the moment before shooting. We had a Brazilian Uruguayan co-production fund. We have a Ibero-American fund. We have the Argentinian fund, and we have fun. We that was the scheme. So the good thing about that was that the film was being known. I mean, and that may have helped to. But the people, the programmers like your film or they don't like your film, and they give a shit if they have a lot of recognition before. For me, it's about liking the film. So I would not be so. I don't like to speculate in that sense.
Okay, so
Uh,
what you are saying that like the investment, I'm calling it that investment of going to markets for several years and losing time was not worth it in terms of when the film was ready.
it was the way I had. It was the way I learned. But I would do it completely different now. But because I did it that way before, it's for me. Each one have to make its own path, and there's not much to learn from different persons. You have to do it by your own and make error and understand stuff and figure out how will work for you. That's regarding the fans. And then regarding the screening of the film in this strange year or years, happily we could premiere the film in Berlin just before the lockdown and the nightmare. So yeah, and it was completely great. We had like 7 screenings, completely crowded, completely packed, and with beautiful Q&As. And it was very warm and very even in Berlin in winter. It was very warm for me, and it was incredibly amazing to meet the audience and to understand that the film is finished when it meets people, and that you are not alone because people feel the film the way you feel it, and that for me was a very surprising because I felt alone a lot of time before the premiere of the film, and I understood that I was not alone in that process, and that was nice. And then the nightmare and everything started to be online and so on, and I only could go to Biarritz, the festival, Latin American Film Festival in Biarritz, France, in September, and then to India, which was wonderful, like a month ago, less than a month ago, and in Uruguay, and that was all my possibilities with the screen. And then the film has a lot of of selections in festivals and or even awards, and it was a nice year for the festival, I guess. But the experience was how you say, robbed. You know, I lost the experience. I didn't have the experience
Yes.
of that, so that's a pity. But it's the way it is. You know.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And like, I was one of the audience in Berlin when I saw the film,
Ah, in
and
Berlin.
yeah, and and I think like I'm also that I think before Venice, did Venice happen, but it was, I think, Berlin last year was is will be the very last festival which happened in full fledged, and I don't know when the world will resume into their original position, but the kind of appreciation we got there, and also the audience here is also is loved your film, like they are so I think you have already moved many people and you are not alone, and like now there are any more people who are looking forward to your New York, your this walk, and so thank you very much, Alex, for talking to us and sharing your film and the experience, and I wish good luck for you for the award ceremony and also for your next film, and I hope to meet you in real world very soon, and
Yeah,
maybe
me
in
too.
Kolkata
We are
in
world.
next
We see
festival.
you. Great. Thank you, and thank you all the audience to being there. I mean, I'm so happy that it can be screened in the theater. And so thank you and good evening, and see you there in the real world, hopefully.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, Alex.
Thank
Goodbye.
you. Good evening.